Today I'm going to talk to you about performing with tracks. Everybody can't afford a live band to play behind them, so every now and then you have to go out and use tracks. That's okay. But I'm going to give you 3 tips that can help you have a better experience with tracks. Tip number 1, okay? Make sure that your track is at a high level, or hot, very hot. When I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be mastered, but there are different ways that you can, go into the studio and they can turn up your level, boost your level up, maybe put a limiter or a compressor on it to so that you can have your track as hot as possible, so that you won't, once you get up on stage, you always have to tell the sound guy, turn it up, turn it up. Well, you don't want to have to do that. Sometimes that's the worst thing, is starting off a track low, especially when you have to sing right at the beginning and the track is low and you can't hardly hear it and people are not feeling it because they didn't hear what happened. So if you make sure that your track is hot, then it will ensure that as long as the sound man is doing his job, that once he hits the play, everything will be loud and you'll be able to hear. So make sure your track is hot. You can always compare it with other tracks, other CDs that you may have, just to make sure the level at least comes close to the level that you hear on a normal professional CD. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is, if you can, try not to use CDs, okay? And the reason I say that is because, I used to perform a lot and we would use CDs, and CDs skip. If you're doing a lot of performing, CDs is going to eventually skip. And it's not always just because you have a worn out CD. It could be the CD player that the sound tech has is just worn out and it's just playing your CD wrong, or making your CD skip or stop, or just keep going over and over again. So the best thing to do is, if you can, get like a MP3 player or an iPod or something like an iPad or something that can play music from. That way, as long as you have your battery charged up, okay, you can just either have somebody with you to take it to the sound guy and hook it up into the system and play the track from there, or if you feel comfortable with just giving it to the sound guy and just saying, hey, I'm doing this track and this track, just press play, it's already set up. That way you don't ever have to worry about your track skipping or anything like that. That's happened to me plenty of times, and we finally figured it out. Sometimes we would use like a Boss BR800 or 1600 or Roland VS 1880 or 1680. We would put our tracks on there and play it, just to make sure that it didn't skip and we didn't have any problems, because it's nothing worse than your track skipping when you trying to sing, because then you have to try to figure out where it's catching on at and all that kind of stuff. So that's another thing. And tip number 3 is, when you first get to the venue or a church or wherever you're going to be singing, find the sound guy, okay, and make friends with him, okay? This is important. It may seem funny, but sound people, they have personalities. They are people just like everybody else. And sometimes, if you can show yourself friendly to a sound guy, because sometimes they have a lot of stuff to do. They're doing sound check. We got all these different artists running up to them, giving them CDs. They're trying to keep up with everything. But if you can just make yourself acquainted with them, just briefly, show yourself friendly, then when you get on stage, they're going to remember you, and they're going to take care of you. And that's important. So hope those 3 tips help you out. This is C-Dub.